Judy and I are so pleased to be here with you. And partly because we get to hear the story from you of how you got here. And I don't mean if you flew through Dallas or something, but I mean how you got to this point in your walk with God and in your commitment to the Great Commission. So we thought it'd only be fair to give you a little clue of how we got here. When I went through undergraduate school, I was not walking with the Lord, wasn't all that interested in the Lord. But then that summer, I concluded I really couldn't somehow achieve peace and satisfaction and significance myself. And that summer, I was dating a young woman named Kathy. Now, you know I'm married to Judy. But if I wanted to be with Kathy one particular night of the week, I had to go to this religious meeting sponsored by none less than Crew. Long story short, after several exposures to the joy of Jesus Christ emanating from the faces of those people, I said, God, that's what I want. So that's one point, major point in my growth. Then that same summer, I went out to our headquarters in Southern California and took a training seminar called Leadership Training Institute, which I thought was just kind of a cleverly disguised evangelism training, but actually they did talk about how to influence the people around you and how to be appropriating the power of God in your life. And then they did teach us how to share our faith and sent us out, so we were involved. And I'll never forget, I went to Balboa Island. Now, if you're going to share Jesus, that's a nice place to do it. It's a very nice area. And for the first time in my life, someone came to Jesus Christ. And then in the course of the next 2 years, I was involved with the ministry out in Boston where I was going to graduate school. And I went to numerous conferences and was inspired. I actually was involved in terms of leading singing, which is absolutely comical because I can't sing. Those were desperate days. We did what we needed to do. And I guess what I'm here to tell you is it had to do with others a lot. People just like the people around this room. It had to do with conferences oftentimes, like the conference we're a part of. And it had to do with involvement, which is what we're going to be talking about together. Those are critical elements that brought me to where I am with God. Judy, how about you?
Well, from the day I was born, it seems that I wanted one thing in life, and that was my own way. And my family affirms me if I ever say that. They said, yeah, that's what you wanted. And I grew up in a basically non-Christian home, even though we did go to church some. But I had a friend in high school who took me to Colorado from Texas, where I lived, and said, we're going to go to a camp where you'll learn to ski and there'll be cute boys. And I went, okay, that sounds good. And so while I was there, I learned about Jesus. Now, I liked God. I liked Jesus. I just didn't know I had to do anything to know them. And so the speaker was vividly portraying what my sin had done to Jesus as he was beaten and flogged and crucified. And I was horrified because, you know, in wanting your own way, you sometimes step on toes or hurt other people. And I knew, well, yeah, there were a lot of reasons, actually. I knew that there was sin in my life. But then, after I'm about ready to say, yes, I want Jesus to forgive my sins, the speaker said, and he will show you his better way for your life. And I'm like, Jesus not only forgives my sin, he has a better way than my way? I could hardly imagine. And so that night, I was challenged to imagine I was holding in my hands what was most important to me. It was my own way. Was I willing to let Christ come in and show me his way? I was. And so I turned my hands over. And in my mind, it was almost like I signed a contract saying, God, I choose your way, not mine. And I thought it was settled. And then I found out that it would be settled day by day, moment by moment. The next morning, there was something that wasn't my way. And I'm like, oh, you mean it doesn't just happen? No, it was a lot of choices after that. And I'll mention three very briefly each. Well, two of them happened when I was graduating from the University of Texas, and I'd been involved with Cru and was on student staff, and I really sensed from God a call to join full-time staff, to give my life to serving God. And I'm like, I'd love that. I love that. There were two little problems. One, I was engaged to a young man I'd led to Christ and was eager to be married to. And I said, isn't it exciting we're joining staff? And he's like, I'm not. And I said, yes, we are. God's calling us. He said, no. And I said, God, when are you going to tell him? And God's response was, Judy, if you marry him, you won't be able to do what I have called you to do. So I broke my engagement. The other problem was that since I was 8 years old, I'd wanted to be a writer, and I had studied journalism, and I was all excited that someday I would write for a magazine and maybe be a magazine editor. But at that time, Cru was small. It was a long time ago. And there was nothing to do but go on campus. I said, God, if that's what you want, I will go on campus. I will tell young women about Jesus. I will disciple them. And Bill Bright called me into his office at staff conference. He said, so you have a journalism degree? Yes. We have this magazine, an evangelistic magazine for the campus. Would you, instead of going to one campus, consider coming to headquarters and do this magazine for all the campuses? I said, seriously, God? I give you the man I love and my dream, and you took him away, but he kind of had something better later, a lot later, but he turned around and gave me my dream far more than I could ever have imagined. And I had not only the privilege of editing 2 magazines for Cru, but helping Bill Bright write a lot of our basic materials and books and things. Incredible privilege that I had. The third, well, some of you have heard a little and some will hear more tomorrow morning, but he sent a boy to us that we ended up adopting. He came in from a very bad situation and changed our life dramatically. And for 15 years of hard things with him, we still got to say, Lord, it's yours. I'm just here to serve however you want. And his plan always has been better than mine.
I am so glad that Judy broke her engagement with that guy. As we're together here, I would hope you would sense we don't just want you to learn more about us. I hope that happens. But we would like you to be inspired. And we would like you to see ways that God can use you even more. And that is our prayer for you.